9, go Class 9, has been the Fluvanna County Administrator since the Board of Supervisors hired him in 2012. At the time of his appointment, then Board of Supervisor Chairman said of Nichols, his leadership style is personal, professional, and sober. He likes to build things in consensus, which is a great thing in a county leader. It's great to have in any leader. His depth of experience and professional demeanor will serve Fluvanna well for years to come. Please welcome our County Administrator, Steve Nichols.
I don't think you're going to need me to use this one, do you? Okay, good. So I'll sit there in case it blows up. For those of you that didn't pick one up, I think most of you probably got one of these, but make sure you have one of these. It's a great thing to take home and look at to find out what your county government's been doing over the past 5 years. This was prepared in advance of the board's strategic planning session in January. They do one every 2 years. Whenever election is done, we have 3 supervisors up 1 2-year period, and then 2 years later, the other 2 supervisors are up for re-election. We have the same board now as we did before the election. They all were re-elected, but in their strategic planning sessions in the even-numbered years, we always try to put together what they've been working on, what the county and through their leadership and what the county staff and the constitutional officers and their staff have been working on. There's a lot of stuff on there. These are small rock, a lot of them are big rock issues, things that the county's been working on for sometimes decades, sometimes just for the last few months. But where those ideas come from, in almost all cases, is from citizens, from businesses, from local residents that talk to supervisors, talk to county staff, talk to the constitutional officers, and identify things that they think would make our community better. So one of the things that the board has been working on for decades is infrastructure. And the infrastructure projects, water and sewer specifically, the E911 system, we'll talk a little bit about all those. They're all well along in their processes. And it's a great thing to see Fluvanna County move forward in that way with those kinds of big projects that are expensive to take on, difficult to complete, but very worthwhile in the long term, and it will make a positive difference in our community. So let's go down through a little bit of that list. Did you just kick that chair over? So I'll pick up a few highlights off this list and we'll talk just briefly about them, but anytime you have a question, please just holler. And if you've got a topic you'd like me to discuss or to cover in some way, please let me know and I'll be glad to cover anything that comes up. If it's a political question, we can ask the politicians in the room, but the county administrator is by nature and by our code of ethics not political. We don't endorse any candidates. We don't put any signs up in the yards. We don't affiliate with any side or the other. We're here to serve the collective board of supervisors and by extension the people of Fluvanna County. So one of the things that the board has reestablished over the last couple of years that's going to make a positive difference, has already in the thousands of dollars, is the County Finance Board. One of the things we have is at any one time is 15 or 20 or $30 million that's in the county coffers. Some is reserve. We have $8.3 million reserve that we always keep, that we don't touch unless there's a catastrophic event. That's certainly there. But we also have another $7 million in unrestricted fund balance that the board can use for various projects. They're going to use about half of that to pay cash for part of the Zion Crossroads Water Project. But that $30 million needs to do something. It can't just sit there. Even in low interest rate environments, you can do something with $30 million. So the Finance Board is part of how that happens. That's the board chair, the treasurer of the county, and then the finance director. And they all get together on a regular, no, sorry, not finance director, a citizen of good repute, and that's actually Mr. Garcia currently. We sometimes don't get it right, but he's done a good job so far. He brings a great deal of knowledge to that finance board, and it helps. And then myself and the finance director support that effort. But just in the first few months alone, when we move some money around and put it in some new investment accounts, even though the investment numbers are very, very low, when you put $7 million into an account, you can make quite a bit of money. So we made $80,000 in the first few months with moving some money into another account. That's a couple school teachers. And so it makes a big difference on what you do with your money, even in a low interest rate environment. So that finance board is a really good thing for the county. It meets generally monthly, but sometimes less frequently if there's not decisions to be taken. But we revisit where the money is for the county and where it goes and what investment account it goes in. And we have multiple investment accounts that we can use that meet state code, state law requirements, because the treasurer can only be as liberal as what state law allows. But at least we can put some money into those accounts and make much more than you can just leaving in a local checking account. We certainly have to have money in a local checking account to pay regular bills and salaries and things like that. But the rest of the money can be put in investments and makes a big difference. The food bank, the Fluvanna Christian Service Society, I'll just cover some of these things. If you know about where the food bank is down at Carriesbrook Complex, where the social services office is at, there was an old auto shop and shop building that was part of the old high school years ago. That was where the Macca thrift store was. A couple of years ago, we decided to move them into the basement of the gym. We renovated the basement there, moved them into that facility. Vastly better than what they had, much better for serving the public. It also freed up that building to use for public works because I need some space for our public works staff and for maintaining their equipment. So that's worked out very well. But at the same time, we also wanted better digs, better spaces and more visible spaces for the Fluvanna County Food Bank, the one that's operated by the Fluvanna Christian Service Society. They had two small buildings and then they used a little bit of that maintenance shop. But an old fixed building, just kind of a shed style fixed building, another one that can be moved, that's a shed type building. And so now what they've got is they've got two brand new, beautiful, they're still shed style, but insulated, electrified, and ready to go. Two big new buildings that they've purchased. The county purchased one of their old buildings so that they could use those funds towards the new ones, and they'll be moving completely into their new facilities in the coming weeks and months. And it's good because now they're very visible. When you pull into the parking lot to go to the Macca thrift store or to go to Macca for services and support, on the other side of the parking lot is the food bank. And so it's a great mix of services for our community and something that's very well needed. So we've worked collaboratively with them and it's worked out quite well. Let's see, the ordinances in our county get updated periodically. One of the ones that I've been most interested in, that I've been working on for several years, and our staff has been working very hard, along with the Planning Commission, is the ordinances relating to derelict structures, junk vehicles or inoperable vehicles, and trash. You can drive around this county or any county in America, and you can find properties you say, wow, that sure doesn't meet our community standard. Why are they like that? Why haven't we done something about it? Well, you can only do legally what the state code allows us to do, because we're a Dillon rule state. We have to not exceed anything the state expressly allows us to do. If it doesn't expressly allow us to do, we cannot do it, even by local ordinance. Well, we've updated our ordinances now. The board adopted them at last meeting or meeting before to increase the possibility of actually enforcing a reasonable community standard on vehicles. And you see, you pull up to your neighbor's house and there's 2 junk vehicles in the front yard and 4 in the backyard. Sorry, that's not legal. In most cases, they have to be screened and out of view from the public, from the roadways. And there are properties that have too much trash and junk and bags of garbage built up on them. And I'm not talking about everybody. We have a great community. But there are certainly properties out there that all of you can notice and see that we want to take stronger enforcement action on. So with these new ordinances that are in place now, that are adopted by the Board of Supervisors, we have a meeting set up in a week or so with the health department, with my planning and code enforcement folks and my building inspectors, with the county attorney and with some other folks coming in. We're going to figure out exactly now how we best implement those new ordinances. What are our checklists for making sure that something is in compliance with our ordinances and meets our community standards, and then what are the standard steps we take to identify a property, notify a property, give them due course to get an item fixed, and or have the county fix it and charge them back for that cost or put a lien on their property. It's an important standard in our community to keep our standards on what the community wants, and this is an important step towards that. So I was pleased to see the board take action on that. If you haven't been to the county website lately, over the last year, it's changed substantially. It's a much newer and ultra-modern website that is mobile friendly. on your phone, on your iPad, on your other tablets. It works great on any platform. It also has a greater access to information. I always tell folks that if you go to our county website and you can't find what you're looking for in 2 clicks, it's in the wrong place. If you find that's the case, if you're looking for something and you can't find it, make sure you go on to My 2 Cents. There's a little icon out there for connecting with the county. Go to My 2 Cents and let us know. Because sometimes we won't pick up the same thing that you'll see from your perspective. And if you're looking for information and you can't find it, let us know because we can make it more visible. Sometimes there's things on the website that are just not needed anymore, and we can take those down and change some of the major links on the front page. But we're really proud of the new site. It is simple and user-friendly, has a great deal of information available, and we want to make it a landing spot for you so that it's easy to get the information you need about local government and about events and happenings in the community. One new feature that's on the website too, and it's really in its infancy, but I've been trying to work on this for 6 years, and we're finally now kicked off and we're starting to populate it. It's called the Citizens Data Dashboard. You want to know about budget, you want to know about the rules for this project, you want to know what the county policy is in this, you want to know what the history is on tax rates, you want to know what it is for health department inspections or how many people are served by social services. Go to the data dashboard. And right on the main page, there's 6 green circles on that front page. One of them is for agendas and minutes, and one is for the GIS system. One of them is also for the data dashboard. Just click on that, and there's 7 or 8 categories down the side that you can pick out that talk about data and history and statistics about what the county government is and does and help to keep the population informed. If there's some information that you think is important, like tax rates that you want displayed in a certain way, let us know. We're looking for ideas, and we want to make sure that we populate the finance section and the community development section and the social services section in the type of information that makes it easy for you to get to what you want and to know about what county government is and where your taxpayer dollars go. So that's on the main page of the website. Most of you know that you've seen some more towers go up in the county in the last couple of years, some rather large towers. Communications towers are important, but for a long time, Fluvanna County always said we don't want any towers above 199 feet. If you go above 199 feet, you have to put the red lights on and the strobe lights because it's FAA requirements to keep aircraft safe in the area. But one of the things you can do is if you build a higher tower, you can get more antennas on it, but you can also get a better signal across a wider area of the county. Because we're hilly and we don't have a lot of flat lands around Fluvanna County, we've had a very difficult time communicating from a fire, rescue, and sheriff's office point of view. That makes them less safe, and it makes all of us less safe if they can't communicate back with other units they may need to assist them or to get other resources on site. And so we've had a really abysmal E911 communication system. Not that you couldn't call E911 anytime and get a response, you could, but if I'm out in the field as a responder, I couldn't oftentimes talk to my base or talk back to my station or talk to the E911 center. We had about 50% coverage for our radio system. And by any standards in today's world, that's not acceptable. And so the board a number of years ago took on the task of setting some dollars aside and looking at a way to improve our E911 radio system. That project is done. It's amazing. We have greater than 99% coverage in every area of our community. Now, that cost about $8 million. And we'll pay for it over a number of years. Partly we were going to do it up front with cash, but the board decided we had such great rates on debt service or capital leases that we did that over a 7-year period of time and used the cash for the Zion Crossroads Water Project. But what you have in place now is 4 new county towers, a couple of them 300 feet, 2 of them 250 feet, and then there's a new 199-foot tower at the sheriff's office. Now, while we've had a complaint or two because that flashing light shining in my bedroom, I'm empathetic to that because I wouldn't want it shining in my bedroom either. But look at the safety it brought to our fire, rescue, and sheriff's office personnel and all of us in emergencies because now we have 99% coverage and redundancy throughout the community. It's a great addition to Fluvanna County. Because the board paid to build some of those towers, now we can put commercial providers on there to help expand cell service, potentially wireless broadband, and also the county then collects the investment, the rental income on those tower slots, on those big towers. So a great improvement. And while those things are very expensive, They are certainly life's blood for our community over the long term, and I'm really proud of our county for accomplishing that. If you didn't see in the paper a few weeks back, the Farm Heritage Museum has kicked off. We did the groundbreaking about 3 weeks ago. I don't know if they've actually started the final final start of construction and marking off the areas. They hadn't as of Thursday or Friday when I was over there, but it's imminent. And in about 8 weeks, once they start construction, we'll have a new farm museum at Pleasant Grove. And Mr. John May and others have donated a lot of historic old farm equipment that'll be put into that building. And then the Historical Society will work on putting some interpretive signage and things. Another great addition to our huge Pleasant Grove Park, but also another draw for folks coming in and for tour groups from school groups and things like that. If you've ever been through Columbia, the former town of Columbia is still called Columbia. It will always be Columbia, but it's no longer a formal town. Therefore, the county has authority over ordinances and rules and laws and coverage for that area. There's a federal grant, a hazard mitigation grant, that's specifically used to tear down old structures that happen to be in the floodplain. In the former town of Columbia, there are 4 structures that are in the floodplain that are uninhabited and uninhabitable. And so the federal grant that we've received with the Thomas Jefferson Planning District Commission is about $200,000. About 150 of that comes from the federal government, 40 from the state, and 10 from local government. That grant is going to help us tear down, and we've already purchased the properties. We already own those old structures. Unfortunately, I'd rather not own them. I'd rather just tear them down and let somebody else own the blank property. But we buy those properties with this federal grant money. We tear down those structures, and in perpetuity, those lands there have to remain in green space. It could be park areas or things like that, but you can't build back on them because they were used to tear down structures in the floodplain. A positive improvement of any type in Columbia will be a great thing. It's been decades of neglect in the Columbia area. It's one of the gateways into our community. It comes on a historic scenic highway of the Commonwealth, Route 6. And we're coming in from Goochland County. It's beautiful in Goochland, going past the wineries and things. And all of a sudden you come into Columbia and the Columbia River Bridge there, and all you see is not good. Well, it's going to look better soon. The bids are due back on the demolition contractors on February 15th. We hope then to award a contract fairly shortly after if the bids are acceptable and tear those 4 structures down. And there is a task force, a Columbia Area Renewal Effort Task Force, the CARE Task Force, that's working on what we're going to do in the future. What things, excuse me, what things we'll do to improve Columbia, what things we'll do to upgrade the area. We've already taken down some of the old junk that's in the area. We've already put some new rules in place that the board adopted a while back about open alcohol containers and loitering on properties. And we've already put up a new sign in the town, welcome to Fluvanna County and historic Columbia. A lot of new things are happening. But the task force is very energetic, very engaged, and it's going to look on what to do with those properties over the long term to make Columbia the best place that it can be, and certainly better than what it's been for decades. We want all the residents of Fluvanna County, and especially the residents of the Columbia area, to be proud of the heritage of Columbia, great old town, and we can improve it and make it better again. So that's what we're working on in that area. If you don't know, last year the Board of Supervisors took the business personal property tax rate from $4.35 per hundred down to $2.90 per hundred. That's a huge decrease. Now, I can tell you the board's intent is to continue to lower it to take it down to $1.90. Now, why is that? Well, Louisa happens to be $1.90 too. We want to be competitive with our neighbors. The problem with competitiveness for us is we have 2 really big sources of income for the county to operate the county: real estate and personal property. We don't have a meals tax, we don't have a lodging tax, we don't have a B-poll, we don't have a merchant's capital tax, we don't have all the other kinds of taxes that other counties have surrounding us, so we really hit hard on real estate and personal property. But the board worked hard to help accomplish the support of our business community and to attract new business by lowering that rate from $4.35 down to $2.90. In my budget proposal that I'll present to the board tomorrow night, it's coming down a little bit farther from $2.90 down to $2.40. And then incrementally, hopefully the year after, we can come down to $1.90. I don't know what the final rate will be this year. We'll see what the board adopts, but it's certainly going to be an improvement over what it has been and great for business and our business community. The number one most important thing we need in Fluvanna County from a revenue point of view to support county operations and support the services that you all need and want is more business. And to make this a great place to do business, we need low tax rates, great business support out of Jason Smith and his office, and infrastructure to help support expansion of business in our community. So that's what's going on with the tax rate, but the business expansion is coming as well. Let me talk about Zion Crossroads Water Project. It's been decades in the making. It's really a sister project in conjunction with the James River Water Authority project. That's the multi-year, big straw, large water project from the James River up through Fluvanna County and in Louisa County. That's the 50-year water supply for both of our counties. It's a joint venture. We pay 50-50 for the intake in the river, the pump station, and the mile of pipe or so until it connects to a Louisa County pipeline. They take it to a new treatment plant that they're building in the Ferncliff area. It's well under construction. You can go up there and see it. It's an amazing operation. And then they'll bring treated water to areas in our county, especially Zion Crossroads, and to areas in Louisa County. That project is well underway, but we still have one more permit to get. That's the Corps of Engineers permit. You have to get a series of permits to do big water projects. That's from the Department of Environmental Quality, from the Virginia Marine Resources Commission, and from the Corps of Engineers. The first two we've already have. We're waiting on the Corps of Engineers. We hope that'll be this spring, and then formal construction can start, and that will bring long-term water supplies. Ultimately, at peak rates, that's a 12 million gallon per day water project. Now that's at peak rates. Normally in the first 3 or 4 years, it'll be about a 4 million gallon project, and it's of course split 50-50 between the two counties. But the sister project to that, really the guts in the ground, is the Zion Crossroads Water and Sewer Project. That's a project where we're partnering with the Department of Corrections from the state, where the Women's Correctional Facility is. They have excess water and excess sewer capacity. We've bought that capacity from them. We have signed agreements. We're going to be pulling water from their water treatment plant, using sewage, having sewage treated in their sewage treatment plant, and we're going to be putting pipes from the Women's Correctional Facility all the way back to Zion Crossroads and a little bit down Highway 15. That's the first phase of a multi-decade phase project, but that will get infrastructure along the 250 corridor where we really want to concentrate a lot of new business. And it's already paying dividends. Jason has been pulling in companies left and right, some because they've just heard the good business environment and the positive vibes that weren't there before, some because they know the water project's coming. We've got some announcements coming up that are pretty impressive and will bring a lot of new jobs to Fluvanna County. But also there's about 100 new jobs just in the last year in the Zion Crossroads area alone of new businesses that have relocated to our county and along that corridor. So Jason and his planning team are doing a great job trying to attract new business. He's at meetings. We used to joke that Bobby Popowitz, his predecessor, was at barbecue and beer events all the time trying to lobby for business. He does the same. He's usually at wine events and barbecue events, but he's doing the same and bringing new business into the county, and it will make a positive difference in the coming decades for us. If you didn't see in the paper, I think 2 times ago in the Fluvanna Review, there was an article about expanding our senior services offerings. Fluvanna County has had a senior center operation a couple times a week at the Fork Union Community Center for years. And over the past 3 years, we've expanded that. We added one into the Cunningham district at the old VFW facility on Route 6. We added one at the Kent Store ARC, the Agricultural Resource Center? Recreation Center, Agricultural Recreation Center. It's a community-based building, but we do our services there when the heat works. Otherwise, we do it at one of the local churches. But the planning department, in conjunction with the Jefferson Area Board for Aging, not the planning department, Parks and Rec department, sorry, just expanded into the northwest part of our county at Beaver Dam Baptist Church. So we have senior center operations almost every day of the week, throughout the entire month, at 4 different corners of the community. And so there should never be a lack of ability for seniors to have something to do with some of their colleagues, do arts and crafts, do travel events, to go to movies, go on shopping trips. And we really like that kind of programming, but so does the Jefferson Area Board for Aging. And because people like me, are the fastest growing segment of our population, those senior services are really important and needed in our community. And I'm proud that the partnership has worked out well in expanding those services. I think you all know that last year the board adopted and approved the proposal to establish an Economic Development and Tourism Advisory Council. Jason Smith and his team that team have been working hard on a tourism package, and that tourism proposal will be presented to the Board of Supervisors tomorrow evening, and we'll see what they say about it, and then hopefully they'll adopt it in a subsequent meeting, and it'll be a new tourism strategy to draw folks into the things that we have to tout in our community, and there's a lot. We're not Monticello, and we're not Montpelier, but gosh, we're kind of right between those two. And so part of our brochures really tout that. The one that Ed Tack and Jason Smith and his team have created, when you look on there, you can see kind of where some of the popular areas are, but Fluvanna smack dab in between those. So we want to be a destination when people come to those other areas too. Let's see. If you do any building projects, or you do any special use permits, or you do any zoning changes or things like that, what you'll find now is the planning department and the building inspections department are going to be all electronic. Our inspectors now do all their work out in the field with an iPad connected back to the main station at the office there, and you can put in a special use permit or a building inspection application right from your home computer, or you can come into the office and do it right there. Everything is electronic now. It's much easier. When the inspectors are in the field, they can come and inspect your construction project that's going on and print a permit or a violation if need be, but a permit or any other paperwork right there in the field and hand it to you, and you can post it. It's a great way to make our systems more replicable and have better history in there in a good electronic system, but also make us more efficient by being able to do stuff right in the field and be very responsive to folks when they need inspections done on properties as they're doing construction. So that's a pretty good change. The broadband access task force has been underway for, I don't know, 6 or 8 months now, Jason? Something like that, or 8 months. One of the things that the board asked us to do was to look at ways to potentially expand broadband access in our community. It is a difficult thing to do in a rural county because the last mile is always the most difficult. When you think of it from a commercial investment point of view, a private investment point of view, the phone companies, the broadband providers, the electricity is a little off the board now because they finally decided years and years ago that it was a necessity, and projects were put in place to expand electrification around the United States. That's not a problem now, but broadband is a ubiquitous need. Everybody that's got a kid in 5th grade knows that they're smarter than we are about anything electronic, but they're only smart and they're only good in their school studies if they can actually get to the internet. They have to have access to internet services. Businesses nowadays are local and worldwide. We have local businesses that sell worldwide. The only way they can do that is by good internet access. So the Broadband Access Task Force is looking at ways that we can partner with private business or what government can do, what local industry can do to expand broadband offerings into the most rural areas of the county. Now that's not easy and it's not cheap. But one of the things you may have seen in the Charlottesville Daily Progress and news reports in our paper and the county talking about is a project that the Central Virginia Electric Cooperative is working on. We've been working with them for months. Jason and I started meeting with CVEC months ago on this. We haven't put out a lot of information yet, but there will be some public town hall meetings coming up in the coming weeks to talk to the public about what this project may mean for Fluvanna County. In a nutshell, CVEC has 36,000 customers spread over 14 localities. About 50% of their base of customers is 25% in Fluvanna County, 25% in Nelson County. We're a big player in Central Virginia Electric Cooperative. About 8,500 of our 10,000 households are served by Central Virginia Electric Cooperative. They have a plan to invest $100 to $110 million over the next 5 years to bring broadband fiber access to every single one of their customers within 5 years. Now, that's not without cost. Certainly cost to them as a member-owned cooperative, it's going to be expensive, and their board wants to make sure that it's a financially viable system for them. If they make this happen, though, what their plan states as it is now is that 100 megabits speed broadband access would be $49.99 a month. That's Cheap, cheap, cheap. 1 gigabyte broadband access will be $79.99 a month. That's cheap, cheap, cheap. And telephone service, full long distance and local calls at $29.99 a month. That's very cheap. Those in combination spread out to 8,500 households in our community, that's 85% of our homes, would be a really positive good thing. It doesn't mean that every one of us that uses CVEC electricity is going to buy into their broadband. At my house, I'm fortunate I live near the lake. I have access to Comcast and I have access to CenturyLink, but CVEC will be there also sometime in the future. It gives me choices, and those competitive choices help bring rates down in some cases, but they're only talking about maybe a 20% uptake. You know, they may only expect 20% of the customers to take their broadband service or their phone service. That's still pretty impressive, and they have a business model that think they can make that happen. Now, how does that affect the taxpayers of Fluvanna County? Well, potentially great services, but it doesn't cover our entire county. It's only 85%. And largely, the southeast portion of our county is not covered because they're covered by Dominion. And CVEC cannot go into another electrical provider's service area. But what CVEC is asking for out of this $110 million investment is they're asking those 14 localities to participate in this project to some degree, whether it's through tax rebates, whether it's through purchasing service for county buildings, whether it's through cash contributions or a variety of other mechanisms. We have a review team looking at this now. They want to collect about $20 million out of that $110 million from those 14 localities. And if you do it purely based on the number of households, we're 25% of their operation. They're asking for about $5 million in some shape, way, or form over the next 5 to 7 years from our county. I don't know how we're going to get there. I don't know if it's the right thing to do to get there. But I know that I'm going to give my board every bit of information they can possibly have to make an informed decision on whether that's right for Fluvanna County. We'll have some town hall meetings where CVEC will be coming out and talking to folks and talking about this project. You can talk to your elected officials and let them know what you think about it. In an area where you're served by Dominion, maybe that's not such a good thing. But just because someone over there gets something that I don't get doesn't mean that's bad. It just means it happens to be there, and I'm unfortunate that I don't live in the area. But can you imagine solid, well-priced broadband to 85% of our homes versus what we have now? Could be a really big boon for our community and for other communities that are in the same boat. Nelson County has about 50 less subscribers than we have. We have about 8,700. They have a little bit less, but for both our communities, especially rural communities like Nelson County and ours, could make a huge positive difference. So you'll hear more about that in the coming weeks too. Let's see. You know, Jason does his spotlight on business both in fan mail and in my reports to the Board of Supervisors. It goes on the county website. And so if you want to get your name, your business's name out there, contact Jason. There's a sign-up sheet on the website where you can be in the spotlight on business. The Palmyra Village area, down where the county courthouse is and the administrative offices and Mr. Sheridan's office, we're working on a streetscape project, a mini streetscape project to start with. The traffic patterns there are terrible. There are some pretty bad fall and trip areas where there's gutters that are about 4 feet deep that you could step off into. We're going to try to do some improvements on the traffic pattern there, probably by making a traffic circle around Civil War Park rather than two-way traffic, and having some angled parking off the street instead of parallel parking. Should make it easier for everybody to operate. But that's the beginning of a project. We're working with some local citizens and my staff and Virginia Department of Transportation to try to improve the look and the safety in downtown Palmyra. Let's see. If you don't know about the Community Service Awards program, I really want you to pay attention to that program. If you know someone in the community, and every single one of us does, if you know someone in the community that does something good, whether it's a lifetime of volunteer service, whether it's a specific individual project, whether it's a targeted thing where they really made a difference in someone's life from a safety perspective, a life-saving, a volunteer, a support, you name it. There's 1,000 ways how people in Fluvanna County make a positive difference in our community every single day. And every one of us knows somebody. It is very easy to put in a recognition for them. Just go to the county website, go to the Connect, go to the Community Service Awards and put in just some brief information about that individual. That comes into the office, we process that. The constitutional officers and I meet to vet those nominations, And in every case, someone's going to get at least a Community Service Award certificate, but in some cases, they'll get a formal resolution from the Board of Supervisors. And other folks in our community that have already been recognized by that, the well-deserved recognition, we want to make sure that you have a chance to nominate your neighbor or your family member or someone you know at work that really does good things in our community. So, and we need to pay the electric bill here next time, because I'm sure the air conditioning's on, not the heat. Yes. So let me just wrap up with a couple final things and then we can go. One thing, the report to citizens comes out every couple of years. We try to put some good information in. Just take a look at that. That's a lot of what your county government's done in the last couple of years. And these come out that are based on the strategic initiative areas that the board works on. And there's a package that they're getting ready to adopt of their new strategic initiatives for the next 2 years. Again, we do that every couple of years with our planning. And that gives staff and the community and boards and commissions a roadmap on what to work on in the coming couple of years to best benefit our county. And then finally, just one thing about county staff. We have a fantastic county staff, but one of the things I'm really proud of is the board adopted a couple of years ago what I call is our Learn and Earn program. If you're a county staff member and you go get a certificate that is appropriate for your job, or you go get an associate's degree or a bachelor's degree or a master's degree above the requirements for your job, you get paid for it. And it's permanent pay. If you keep that certification, your pay stays up to that level. And it starts at $500 for an annual pay raise, up to a couple $1,000s for an annual pay raise. So if someone in my department that works in an area that does a lot of administrative work goes out and finishes and gets a master's degree and that's not required for the job, that could be a $2,000 a year pay increase. What we really value in our community is, in our county staff, is staff members who are well-trained, well-educated, well-engaged to serve the population, and we want to make sure we recognize their efforts too. So that Learn and Earn program, while it's very inexpensive for county taxpayers, it's very rewarding for county staff and helps keep our staff engaged and on track and always learning to be better tomorrow than we were today. So with that, I'll wrap it up and answer any questions you may have about county government or county operations. And you can contact me anytime at the office. I'm always available. I'm out at community meetings all the time as part of my job. And so just tap me anytime you've got a question, but I'll take any questions now if you have them.
Steve, infrastructure question. Where are we with traffic signal up here, say at Turkey Sag and roundabout up at Effort?
Excellent. Good question about traffic safety, especially on Route 53. The new traffic circle down at Route 15 and 53 is amazing. It's a very easy roundabout. It's a very easy transition for trucks, for buses, for cars. Because I drive that one every single day, several times a day, I'm very thankful because I don't have to wait on school buses and all the other truck traffic and things. That's a model of what can really happen well with infrastructure in your community when VDOT takes a proactive approach, and the county contributed to that project. The one up at 600 in South Boston, or South Boston in 53, is a little more narrow, but it wasn't designed for the same kind of truck and bus traffic. We don't have schools up that way, although buses clearly go through there. It's a little more narrow, but at least it's a much better safety improvement at that intersection, that kind of angled T-bone intersection that used to be there. Now, from there east back towards Charlottesville, west towards Charlottesville, we need a lot more improvements too. The intersection at Ruritan Lake Road and Route 53 on the curve by Cunningham United Methodist is a terrible intersection. It's going to be, and it has been, a dangerous intersection for years, but it's going to be a really bad thing when somebody actually pulls out in front on that curve and you get 3 or 4 car crash. And so we're working with VDOT on that intersection. And then farther up the road, we think the Food Lion entrance to Lake Monticello there at Turkey Sag is a terrible intersection. It's way too much traffic at different times of the day. It's probably prime for a 3-way stoplight. And so we're going to look at that intersection, those two in conjunction with VDOT. And the third and fourth parts of this review that we're doing with VDOT is the Monish Gate up along Route 53 that goes into the side of Lake Monticello. That is kind of a blind curve, and you come over a rise, and people are stopping to pull in, and people are pulling into the Lake Monticello and find out their sticker doesn't work or they don't have one, then they have to back out. It's a terrible intersection. But what makes it really bad is the traffic flying from Charlottesville area down that way, because they're supposed to be going 45. As you know, we changed the entire Route 45 from the high school all the way to our county line down to 45 recently, and that has made a difference. But we still see people flying through that area. The intersection at Lake Monticello Road and Route 53, where Effort Baptist Church is designated for a new roundabout. It will be constructed in 2020, I believe, so it's a little ways off yet, but it'll be styled similar to the one down at 15 and 53, because there's going to be some economic development in that area too, across from Effort Baptist on the north side of Route 53. And so that intersection will be an important one to help fix the Monash Gate. If we can slow down traffic coming through a traffic circle, they're not accelerating up to 55 again, even though it's higher than they're supposed to be when they get to the Monash Gate. So the traffic circle, improvements at the Monash Gate, and it will take some work with Lake Monticello because they own some of the property there, of course. That one, the Food Line entrance to Lake Monticello and the Ruritan Lake Road area are all what we're focusing on now. Now, there are other areas around the county that have been problematic in past years too. We've actually got a very proactive VDOT. They're very easy to work with. They are going to be making a variety of improvements around the county. They already did some this fall with new school bus signs in areas that were particularly problematic. They worked with the school system on that and with local residents, and a passing lane in an area where there's been multiple accidents and multiple problems and new subdivisions that weren't there before. The VDOT's working on probably removing that passing lane on Union Mills down by the South Keswick subdivision. It's a terrible area because people fly at 55 even though it's 45, but you've got new subdivisions there that weren't there when that road was built when they put the passing lane in. So that's the infrastructure update. Rudy.
Steve, during your talk, you mentioned some different things, some task forces and commissions and committees. How do our business owners plug into that?
Yeah, great question, Rudy. I tout this all the time. I always do shameless plugs about different kinds of things, and one of my shameless plugs is the number of boards, commissions, committees, and task forces in Fluvanna County. If you want to be involved in an issue, there's probably a task force or a committee or a commission that's already set up for that. If you want to get engaged, let us know. Just go to the county website, go to the boards, commissions, and committees, and look at the list of things. There's more than 30 boards, commissions, and committees, and that doesn't count the task forces like the Broadband Access Task Force and the review team for the CVEC project and the Columbia Area Task Force and other things like that. But there's almost always some way you can volunteer. Now, one of the best ways to know about how to volunteer and what's available out there is take the FLDP, the Fluvanna Leadership Development Program. Many of you have been through that, but if you haven't, I can assure you it is the best way to know about Fluvanna County, what's going on in Fluvanna County, and make connections all over. I tell people all the time, I am absolutely convinced I would not be county administrator in Fluvanna County had I not taken that class. I took the Charlottesville Pilot Your City one when I first retired from the military, and I was always involved, wanting to get involved in things. Mr. Chesser nominated me for the Planning Commission, and I got to be on the Planning Commission. That was a great way, but the FLDP made all the difference. And even if you're a lifelong resident, I guarantee if you take that class, you will find things you didn't know about Fluvanna County. Whether it's history or local government or projects or processes, it's a great way to take it, and it's very inexpensive. County staff, if you take the class, I'll sponsor you and pay your $50 fee, and because I value that so much. And so I've had staff members go through every single year since I went through in 09, or not 09, class 9 in 2011 and 12. Yeah, or 11 and 12 or 10 and 11, 10 and 11 maybe. But in any case, it is a fantastic class, and that's a great way for you to know what's going on. Runs from September through March and April, meet every couple weeks on a Thursday evening, and absolutely worthwhile. So, but lots of ways to volunteer in our community. Besides all the volunteer opportunities, we have on our website too a long list of volunteer opportunities with all kinds of agencies and organizations that are, I call them do-good organizations, because that's what they do in our communities. They do good. And so you can volunteer that way, but you can also volunteer on county government opportunities with boards, commissions, and committees. Yes, ma'am.
Steve, is that Columbia Task Force, are they addressing the other side of Route 6?
North side? Yes. Well, it depends on what you mean. Anything along the Route 6 corridor is what our first focus is, because that's where those structures are that are coming down. There's 2 on the south side and 2 on the north side. All 4 of those will come down.
Oh, I thought you meant just on the south.
No. So there's 2 old decrepit structures right in the middle of Columbia on the north side. Those are part of what we've just purchased and will be coming down. And then there's the old concrete block building next to the old post office on the south side that'll come down. And then I think the old tavern with the orange painted front, that'll come down. So all 4 of those properties will come down. And so it's not limited, that's the buildings that'll come down, but then the task force is working on what kinds of things do we put into place? Do we do a historical park? Do we honor the Monacan Indians from, that settled that area? There's 100 things we're working on, but the task force is very energetic and active. So, and that meets monthly at the St. Joe's Parish Hall in Columbia. It's on the, what's the 19th? That's this Monday. No, Monday after next. That's the third Monday of the month at 7 o'clock. So I have so many evening meetings that anytime I have about 3 weeks a year where I don't have any evening meetings, and my wife, that's usually the weeks where we probably are near divorce because I'm actually home more. But I'm trying to make up for it. We have our 45th wedding anniversary in a couple weeks, and I'm taking her to Costa Rica. So anyway. So any other questions I can answer? Sir?
The Pleasant Grove House and Museum has been open a few years now.
Yep.
Substantial investment from the county.
Yeah, although substantial investment is relative, it was a substantial investment from the federal government and from the state government because it was a transportation grant that paid for the vast majority of it. Between fundraising and county contributions, I think we paid about $400,000 total between contributions and county taxpayers, but the bulk of the project came from grants, from transportation grants. It's more than a penny on the tax rate.
But what is the county doing what's the return on investment? What's the impact that the Pleasant Grove, in conjunction along with, the new farm museum, what are we looking at here? As you talk about wanting to develop business in our community,
Yep.
What do businesses look at? They look at rooftops and look at traffic counts. Yep. How are these things impacting our community in a favorable manner for somebody that may be looking at coming in, meals tax, lodging tax? Well, we need more restaurants, we need hotels to create those things. How are these creating visitors to our community that are then attracting for Jason, additional restaurants, maybe at Zions Crossroads or in the Lake Monticello area?
Great question, and one we struggle with all the time because sometimes you do a project because the community just says it's the right thing to do, but it's not necessarily a revenue generator. Pleasant Grove House is not a revenue generator, but it is a landing spot for new people when they come in the community. Anytime somebody comes and visits Brenda and I, we always take them there. It's free, so that's good. It's a nice, interesting museum. It's also the headquarters for our Parks and Rec operations, so we have staff there all the time at that beautiful, 800 and some acre park now. Since the school's still about 100 acres, it used to be 1,000 acres, but they built that big thing next door and took all that land. So we have about an 800 and some acre park with 20 miles of trails, but it is definitely an incremental step. It is not a big return on investment now. We're not getting hundreds of visitors there every month that pay and bring revenue in, but we are getting some. The farm museum will be the same way. They'll be part of a draw as we expand opportunities and trails and the new disc golf park there. Those things all will start drawing people in. We'll have disc golf tournaments in the future there, and that will draw people in. When you tell a neighbor about the Pleasant Grove House Museum, somebody will come to that and it'll draw somebody else in. When the board, eventually when we add lights to the ball fields back there, we'll end up having more tournaments and that'll draw people in. So the traffic will start increasing to some of those areas, incremental in steps. But by itself, it is absolutely not a cash cow for the taxpayers of Fluvanna County. I do believe that it was a good value to take an 1854 farmhouse and preserve history, put offices there, and help have a presence all the time at Pleasant Grove Park because it's our main attraction for drawing outside folks. But it is a difficult thing. It's not like creating a skate park, like if you had a roller skating rink or something, there are people from outside the county who would be drawn in. It's not the same as that. It's not a Monticello, but this is part of the story we're trying to put out there. These things are at road stops all around the Commonwealth, and we pass them out. Part of what's on there is our park structures, the 20 miles of trails we have. You see horse trailers out there all the time, people coming into the county to use those trails. So it is one of an incremental step of trying to make improvements that will impress people when they come here and draw more people in as we start doing more events. When the Old Farm Day event happens, one of the new big draws will be that big farm museum that's going to be there. And largely, that is a local area funded project. The farm museum is only funded to about, I guess, $24,000, $25,000 total by the county. All the rest of it's funded by donations, by grants, and while we're going to upfront about $54,000 of the project, that money will be paid back to county taxpayers by the Historical Society over the coming years. So it's a relatively cheap project, but a great venue where you can do weddings and events and things like that, because it's going to have a big, huge overhang porch, that, concrete slab, and so it's another one of the ways to draw people here for events. Right now, we already do, well, Jason knows from his time as Parks and Rec Director, we already do weddings and receptions and things like that at Pleasant Grove House and at the pavilions in the back of the park. So it does draw some folks into that area. It's not perfect, but it is one of those incremental steps. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Steve.
Okay, great, thanks.
So we went a little bit long, but I think that was some good information.
And it's a little cold.
And it's a little cold, which is why you were talking. Put some hot air in here. Don't forget, next month we will have the same type of presentation from the school board. Most of the money from our taxpayers goes to fund our schools. So it's really important that we understand what they're doing and why they're doing it. Thank you and have a great day.